Welcome back. Welcome in. Take a seat. Get comfortable. The Fireside Boys are back with another football chat.
Woo!
Yes.
I had to redeem myself from last week. I had to redeem myself. Last week was a bad one.
He found
Listen, anyone who wasn't already sitting is probably like, oh my gosh, that amazing intro. Let me just take a seat.
Probably popping some popcorn.
Maybe start a fire for the Fireside Boys. I don't know. Could do it.
Roast a marshmallow while listening to us.
Philip, David,
Yes.
what are you doing?
I'm mixed right now. Mixed
Same.
vibes.
I'm a mixed drink.
Yeah, this is gonna be great, all you listeners. We're gonna go for more of just a conversational podcast this week. Sometimes we come in with debate, sometimes we come in with hard topics, but we're gonna have a little bit more of a laid back chat. One of these topics is really gonna be good for Dave. One of these topics is gonna be good for Phil. So we're gonna get different opinions. We're gonna see what happens. So first topic on the list, fellas, Ballon d'Or. Let's talk. I think specifically we're talking what? We want to talk Ballon d'Or winner for the men, right? Because I know they have the women's and they have some other awards and all there. We just want to go straight Ballon d'Or for the men.
Mm-hmm.
So the winner was Rodri, and let's go. Phil, what do you want to say about Rodri winning it?
It's obviously rigged.
Okay, why?
Why do you think that?
Exaggerate or exaggerate?
Rodri was my pick.
Yeah, because you're a hater. I'm just kidding.
I'm a Man United
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just think it's tough to understand how he wasn't considered the best player of his team. And then he did have a good Euros. I'm not going to discredit that, but really the entire Spain team had great Euros. You could say Carvajal, Fabian, obviously Yamal. They all did fantastic. They won it. So he's mainly being judged off of his club performance, and he wasn't considered the best player of his club. He got knocked out by Madrid in the Champions League. It just feels like a kind of a wishy-washy award at this point where there's no criteria. Whoever FIFA likes the most that year is gonna win it.
Do we know when they make like a final decision? Because I'd be curious, like him being out and seeing how Man City's playing, completely different. Do you think they were like, well, Vinny got it, but I don't know. You see Rodri, he's out on that team. I can't think they can change their minds like this close to the date, right? That can't happen.
One of the criteria, and sorry, Dave, then I'll let you go, is something like fair play and, well, I forget the other word, but it's fair play and how you present yourself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we can Google the right word, and obviously Vinny's been in a lot of controversy with all the racism stuff and some of his antics off the pitch, some of his unfortunate situations he's faced with some racism against him. So I don't know. I don't want to say that had an effect in it because I actually didn't know that was part of the qualifications to potentially win it, but yeah, that could have played a factor.
Yeah, I mean, we'll never really know. But Dave, what were you gonna say?
I just think, we mentioned this a few weeks ago. He was going to be my pick too. For me, it was him or I thought Jude Bellingham had a pretty good case for it because he was kind of a driving force behind Madrid's attack along with Vinicius. But yeah, Rodri kind of did everything for that team. Like he was sort of their metronome in the middle of the field, and you see what they're like now without him. They don't really have a replacement for him. He's kind of not just like a number 6 that sits there and defends and makes the simple passes. He definitely does more than that. He was really important to that system, so I don't have a big problem with it. I don't think I would have had a big problem with it if like Bellingham or Vinicius won either. But
yeah, I think, of course, we'll never know exactly how they decided it. But when you look at both of them, I think Phil, your case is fair. Dave, your case is fair. Like you said, Phil, Rodri, he was part of a winning Euro Spain team, right? He started every game except the game against Albania. He got player of the tournament. So, he went on world record, 74 games unbeaten for club and country. They say from March 23 to 24, or to May 24. But then on the flip side, right, look at Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr. was a top 2 player on a Champions League team, something that Man City didn't do, and they won La Liga, right? One of the hardest tournaments or one of the hardest leagues in the world. So, yes, Rodri wins the Euro, but Vinny wins the Champions League. I think Brazil's squad can be compared to Spain's squad, so we can't say it's a squad thing. I think both those squads had a fair chance to win the Euro, and same with Champions League. Both squads had a fair chance. You don't think Brazil and Spain are even?
Brazil doesn't play in the Euros.
I'm sorry, I meant the. You're right. I meant the
Copa America.
Copa. Thank you.
I knew it.
Thank
I
you.
knew what you went. I just wanted to be a butthole.
No, you're right. Well, people would have got confused, so thank you for that. Yeah. So both teams are good, as my point. So they both had a chance to win their respective tournaments.
Yeah, I think if Brazil does better in the Copa, probably Vinicius does win it because it does seem that in international competition years, the Ballon d'Oro trophy takes that into account a lot. See Messi's last one when they won the World Cup. So,
and that's what we talked about, right? When we did our top 5, for me and a little bit for Dave, I guess we kind of think the same way. And the fact that World Cups mean a lot in our mind, and to your point, maybe that's how the Ballon d'Or really puts a lot, maybe too much weight. I don't know, but they put a lot of weight on those major tournaments with their international teams.
I'm not mad about it. We've said it before. Rodri he might be a better Busquets, and that's crazy to say, but I think you put this Rodri on Barca's team back in the day, and he takes them to even a higher level because he's more physical. He's bigger.
Yeah, I think he brings a few attributes that Busquets did not.
But he holds that same core pillar of what makes him such a special player.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we talked about the VAR, it's when we talk about everything, like it's the inconsistency year after year of why someone wins, why is someone nominated for the top 10, how the FIFA approach, because at the end of the day, it is coaches and captains voting for these guys, but obviously there's a level of promotion that happens too.
Yeah.
So it's just, I wish it was more consistent, so it was a more credible award.
Yeah, none of these awards are really credible anymore, let's be honest. Look at the NFL. MVP is a QB award.
Yeah.
Find the guy that's a defender or a goalie on this list. You can go all the way down.
Cannavaro, probably,
I mean,
right?
you can say Carvajal, right? Outside back. I mean, I guess I should have said a center back, someone who stays in the back of the field, doesn't have an opportunity to score or assist.
It's Cannavaro, the last one who won it.
Yeah, so there's that. Dave, you said Bellingham. Do you think – so obviously it was Rodri 1, then Vinicius, then Bellingham, Carvajal, Haaland, Mbappe. You think any of those guys deserved it other than Rodri or Vinicius? You said Bellingham you thought had a potential chance. Anyone else that you thought could have been up there? Phil, anyone else you thought could have fought for that top spot? Or was it just kind of between those two, you think?
Yeah, I think the top 3, in my mind, all had a realistic shot at it. I don't think you could argue with like their contributions to either of those teams, but like it's definitely a balancing act. Like because Vinicius is the attacking, the flair, the goals, the creativity, and Rodri's like he's kind of like the quintessential team player. And I don't know, it's hard to weigh those things against each other. And like even if you have like stricter criteria, I mean, there's always going to be some subjectivity, but. Yeah, I thought, like I said, Bellingham, because like he did so much for Madrid in attack. Like he wasn't like he didn't play, and correct me if I'm wrong, that attacking of a role when he was at Dortmund. I think he played a little deeper, and so it was kind of a new role for him, and he excelled like instantly at Madrid.
Yeah.
But I think Rodri just makes that whole team better. He makes players better as individuals, and he makes them function better as a unit, and that's why I don't have any problem with a player like that winning the award. I actually kind of like seeing that, that we can think about.
It's not all by goals.
Yeah, we can think about players differently and, at least attempt to give those guys some credit for the value they bring, because it is hard to quantify that, right? Like if you watch them and you weren't like, someone that watches soccer all the time, you probably wouldn't notice Rodri, but you're definitely going to notice Vinicius and Jude Bellingham and Haaland. So I like seeing it, but like I said, if they would have picked Vinicius or Jude Bellingham, I I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Any of those three
What
guys.
about Florian Wirtz? Anyone else little pissed off that he didn't make it in at least in the top three? I'm disgusted, and that's why I think the award's just tainted. If you're not even going to give a superstar like that a chance.
I think he
12th place is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
that's embarrassing.
12th place is pretty bad when like Yamal got 8.
Listen,
and Yamal this year is absolutely insane. No one's doubting that.
I'm being hyperbolic, but
Phil Foden was 11th.
But yeah,
I'm joking. But,
this is
this
is where I get upset and I start getting to my biasness. Is Yamal had a good Euros, wasn't the best player on Spain. We just covered it was Rodri. Even Fabian might have been more impactful. He didn't have a good year with Barca because Barca stunk. He probably was the only shining part of them, but he still, I think, only had 7 goal contributions, goals and assists across the entire year. But with the recent bias, obviously the start of this year, kind of everything around him, all of a sudden he's 8th, and he's above the likes of Foden. He's above the likes of Wirtz. And that's where that upsets me because it's just so much recency bias, and whoever is liked more in a sense gets the opportunity to be in the top part of the list, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do we think something I've been seeing a lot, like people are saying, man, when you look at this list, how far has the award fallen in terms of talent since we've lost Messi and Ronaldo? And Cruz and some of these guys have all fallen. I mean, even Cruz was on this list, top 10, but now that we're past those guys being the dominant forces in the world, and you see this list, you're like, huh, that was exciting.
I mean, yeah, like I don't know if like the talent has fallen. Like when 2 of the best players ever aren't on the list anymore. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there's any lack of talent. It definitely looks different. No. There's definitely. I don't think if you would have said a year ago that Danny Carvajal was going to finish 4th in Ballon d'Or voting, you probably would have got pretty good Vegas odds on that one. But or like Harry Kane finished 10th. How's he get to be 10th? Bayern win the league every year forever, and then he shows up and they finish 3rd.
Didn't.
And he finishes ahead of the PFA Player of the Year, Phil Foden.
What did he? How many goals did he score though? He scored 40-some, right?
He had a lot of goals.
I'm pretty sure he tied with someone else. Was it with Mbappe for that award for goal contributions? Pretty sure.
I have a fun story.
You might be right.
While you look that up, I have a fun story for everyone about El Matador. El Matador can now say that he has played against the person who finished 4th in the Ballon d'Or voting. Phil, who was born in Hawaii, moved to Spain when he was a child and lived there for the majority of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Played against that guy. Now, I feel like you told me once he was just a freak.
Mm-hmm.
Just good. Like he was just ridiculous when you played against him.
No, spot on. My club team went to a tournament. We were probably obviously the lower end of it. We had a couple players that made it to the pros. He probably carried us to that tournament, but we played against, I think it was Madrid C, so it wasn't even their like A youth team, and then Porto's, I think, B youth team.
Dang.
And at that age especially, you just felt like a child against men, and we were 15, 16, I forget the exact age, 14.
Didn't you say he was a striker at that point?
I forget exactly. There was another kid, Delphine, that was on that team. He semi-made it pro on the Madrid team.
It's wild.
But yeah, it was
these like offensive powerhouses as kids where they're like, okay, you're really, really good, but not quite good enough, so we're going to make you a left back or a right back, and then you're going to be good at that. Just like, here's a new position for you, and then they just figure it out. These guys are crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
That's pretty wild. But Harry Kane had 36 goals in Bundesliga last year.
Yeah, so 36 and 9 assists, so 45 total.
If he had 41 goals, they might have beat Leverkusen one of those 2 times.
Never losing.
But hey,
this is like that scene in Mean Girls where they're trying to make fetch happen.
You can't make fetch happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Trying to make Leverkusen happen again.
I do want to shout out somebody who probably didn't get as much love as he should have, and that's Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah.
That's true. 7th.
I don't know all the stats around him. I was looking at it earlier today, but he has quite a list of accolades from last year, both individual and obviously with the Copa America, the league.
Yeah.
They got quarterfinals in the Champions League. Lost to, or a round of 16. They lost to Atletico, I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
He was driving force in that Copa, though. He didn't even start, but every time he came in, he was one of the reasons they won.
He ended up with 30-plus contributions. He's a sneaky good player. I just feel like he hasn't breaking into that next level where he's considered that world class, but I would love him on Madrid.
It almost feels tough in Italy at times to become that player. I just feel like they don't get as much love, at least where we live.
Yeah.
Not as many people watch that league.
He's quiet on the field, too. He's not like a personality. He kind of just keeps his head down, too.
Yeah. So here's a question. I forgot to ask this earlier. Do we think it's the right move for Vinny to just not show up? I don't. I personally, I understand he feels like he's slighted, and I'm sure people feel that every year. I don't. And you already say, he has had issues off the field. I think that's a really bad look for him to just be like, I'm not coming because, I was better than that guy.
It's not him not going. Madrid as a club decided not to show up because Ancelotti won best coach, Madrid won best club.
He tweeted it out, though. He tweeted out something along the lines like, I'll do it 10 times.
Yeah,
so
but
he's clearly upset.
That's a club decision, so you can't put it on him. I think Madrid should have showed up. It's obviously they had a tough weekend and they thought Vinny was going to win. I think it's a little classless. They've had feuds with FIFA overall over the last 5 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a little classless and probably hurts them more than obviously looks good on them. So
bad timing after they get blasted in El Clasico.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't look
Natalie
good.
Portman's talking smack on them.
Natalie Portman.
She was holding up 4 fingers.
Was Natalie Portman a Barca
Is she a
fan?
part owner of Barca? Someone look that up.
Apparently.
Natalie Portman, part owner of Barca.
Let me
These
Google
American
Classic bandwagon
Is
fan.
Natalie
these
Portman
famous
a
Americans,
Barcelona fan?
like athletes and Hollywood people, love owning pieces of teams around the world.
She made some. Oh, she did that thing that Yamal does.
Yeah.
No,
Do we know why?
She was taking a picture with Yamal.
Yeah.
She did it. Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm never watching her movies again. Well, wasn't she in Star Wars? Wasn't that her?
She was in Black Swan.
I'm never watching that movie
She's
again.
in one of my favorite movies
Or for the first time.
ever.
What's that?
V for Vendetta.
I'm never watching that movie. Never. I'll never watch it now.
I always get her confused with Keira Knightley. They look very
Are
similar.
they not the same person?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
very different. One of them likes pirates. The other one does not.
Yes.
The other one
the other one likes
prefers-
Barca.
prefers
One does
Jedi.
not.
Or Sith,
Yeah,
actually.
that's better.
Okay. It's all coming together. Yeah, but I don't know. For Madrid, who's just such a successful team, they've won so many Ballon d'Ors in the last last decade. I don't know. I didn't like the move. I get it. You're mad, and frankly, who knows? Maybe it was unfair. But Rodri also deserved the award, so I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, they should have showed up.
Yeah.
Childish. Better than
100%.
that, Madrid.
they really are. I mean,
We're
they're
better than that.
one of the most impressive clubs in the history of the sport. So it's just not a good look when they don't show up. Maybe they're making a statement. Maybe they're saying, we're one of the best clubs. We're not going to show up. We're going to embarrass you. But it's
I
just
think
not
they
the right way
embarrass
to
themselves.
do it. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not the right way to do it. All right. I think you guys got any other points on that topic while we're on it? Anything else you want to say, Dave?
I don't.
Phil, anything else from you?
Just keep it consistent years to come, and I think it'll become a more credible award again.
I am. We'll get off this topic. We don't have to talk about this, but in non-joking here, I am upset that Alonso didn't get the Coach of the Year award. I understand why he didn't, because Ancelotti won the Champions League, and that's totally fair. You're welcome to give it to him. I just thought Alonso taking a team that wasn't in Champions League the year before to not losing any games in the league and making it.
I agree.
If he,
Kind of agree with that.
the only reason that I can't be too mad is if they beat Atalanta, he gets the award. They lost to Atalanta in the Europa final. So I bet that's the reason that they went with the guy who won Champions
Should
League.
have still got it.
Maybe,
Again,
but
popularity thing.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
but I am sure the reasoning was, listen, he lost in the Europa final. He didn't get that trophy, so give it to the guy who got it. It is what it is, but I was really hoping he was going to get that. But
He'll get an extra on Madrid.
speaking of coaches who people, well, in this case, don't love. Some people don't love.
Fantastic transition.
Yeah, I know. That just kind of came to me. Dave, I'm going to let you just start this one off, man. We are going to be looking at the Ten Hag sacking. David, what do you think, man? You're the expert on Man U.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I think if they wanted something out of this season, they kind of had to do it. So, I mean, I was all about Ten Hag when they hired him. I was super pumped. His first season was great. They finished third. They won a trophy. But yeah, ever since then, it's been a lot of bad, and it makes them giving him, an extension in the off season look a little interesting, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like it's been like Groundhog Day with this team for the last
repeating every year
2 years. Yeah. I feel like I'm just watching the same game and the same team every single time, and it doesn't matter who they buy, who starts, who's hurt. It's the same sort of rudderless direction with the team on the field. And I've said to you guys, I've said to our friends or anybody that would listen to my misery is nothing has changed. It's just the same thing over and over again. And so if you wanted something out of this year, finish in the top 6 and get in the Europa League or whatever, you pretty much had to do this, because I think we were at the point where Ineos was like, yep, nothing is going to change here. You have to go. And I think the players deserve some blame as well, because you can't, coaching only goes so far when people just decide their defensive frailties. Diogo Dalot is my example. I think he's great, but once or twice a game, he's just going to forget that he has to mark somebody, and somebody's going to be wide open in the box. And so
yeah,
I think the players take a lot of the blame, but again, you can't really, switch the whole team in the middle of the season without a transfer window. So I think this was the only move. But yeah, I don't know what it looks like to a non-Man United fan though, because I have more feelings, but I want to know what you guys think, because you're fans of good teams.
Well, right now my team's good, but let me go, because my team's not always good. Phil probably has a good opinion coming from, a team like his. When I look at Man U, I just want to say, okay, they're going through coaches fairly quickly, and you want to say what went wrong, right? Let's name A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z of what went wrong this season. You can do that, and they seem to do that on a yearly basis. But then it just gets to the point of, is it a deeper-rooted problem? Is it one of those, problems you can't quantify that is, is there a bad culture? That's the thing that I go to when I see this happening in all sports, right? You see it with some football teams, Cleveland, the Browns as an example. Is it just a problem with the organization at the moment where they just don't have the culture and they don't have someone who can change the culture, right? They had Ronaldo for a little bit, and even not being the best player, it just felt like they had something there. And maybe that was just him bringing a different attitude. And I don't know if your owners are that good either, and I'm not saying it's their fault. They just own the team, right? How much do they really affect? But I don't know, man. It just feels like a deep-rooted problem that they have to find a winner. Just like the word winner associated with a player, and find that guy to change it. And they don't have that right now. Casemiro was that, but he's not that anymore because of his age. Rashford's not that. They just need a guy who brings that just next level. And I'll finish after this, but I told Phil this, we talked about this in the 1 to 5 rankings. Ronaldo is the guy that in his head says, we are down 2-1. We are getting destroyed in this game. I really don't care. I'm going to score a goal. It may not be pretty, but it's going to happen. They don't have that mindset from anyone on the field. I don't see, at least. So that's what I'll say. Phil, go ahead. I talked a lot.
No, did you have something
Dave,
to say,
yeah.
Dave?
What's your
team?
Yeah, I think they're fixing some of the organizational stuff. I like what Ineos has done so far. They needed to do that first because the Glazers were a disgrace, to put it lightly.
Tampa Bay is cool though.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag just I want to see with the new manager a distinct style of play. Show me that you have a plan, and that you're willing also to change if that plan doesn't work at some point, whether that's at halftime, whether that's, over an international break, or like I said, I watched the same thing for 2 years. And so that's what I want to see them have a style of play. How are we going to build out from the back? Which Ten Hag wanted to do. They had no clue how to do it if you watched United play. Just stand right next to whoever the number 6 is, and they're not going to be able to smoothly break out of the back. But, how are you going to break a team down when they sit deep against you? How are you going to control the game against teams you should control the game against? How are you going to structure your midfield? And there was just none of that. It was just like, sometimes I felt like the plan was, hey, you guys go and run around and try to counterattack as quickly as possible every single time. And it can't work consistently. So hopefully, whether, I don't know what Van Nistelrooy is going to be able to change in his short amount of time that he appears to be the coach. There's the Ruben Amorim rumors, Sporting's coach.
He good.
That'd be good.
They're good.
He good.
But
Really good.
Ajax was also amazing when we
Also true.
got Ten Hag.
I mean,
And so-
let's be honest. Portugal's a better league than.
It is.
So you get hopefully it's not the same, but
But like, the other thing, because what you guys are talking about, like systemic problems, and like how Casemiro was great when he got here, and now he's bad. Marcus Rashford was great in Ten Hag's first year. He's been pretty bad for over a year now. He's been a little better this season, but in general, he just looks disinterested. And you can say that about a lot of guys. And when the whole team, if you look at United this year and who's playing well for United on an individual basis, you can't really. There's no one that's you're immediately
Onana.
Phil
Some-
literally
Onana,
said
yeah.
that. Phil said that this weekend. He said, "Who is good on that team?" And I was like, "I don't know."
De Ligt has been pretty good, but there's no one that sticks out. It's that guy's playing great so far this year.
Yeah.
And when everyone on the team, even Bruno Fernandes, who faces a fair amount of criticism, but I'll always go to bat for because he works so hard and he's pretty much the only creative player they have. When everybody is bad, to me, that's okay, all these players that are objectively good players to varying degrees didn't all just get bad at one time. And to me, that's the sign that something above them has to change. And like you talked about with Marcus Rashford on the FPL pod, the anybody but him boost. And I feel we're at the point where we need anybody but him to coach the team. It's guys are going to wake up and it's oh, we just got our manager fired. We need to play better. Do we need some tactical adjustments or several tactical adjustments? Yeah. But yeah, to me, that was the signal when it's just no one to an individual level is playing well. And
hopefully the coaching switch lights a fire under those players to say, well, I was an everyday starter, but with a new coach, I'm not actually doing that well. I may want to pick it up a little bit, right? Because coaches have their guys, and when a new coach comes in, you're no longer the guy. You'd have to become the guy again. So maybe that'll help him out. I don't know. But Phil, you didn't say much. Any thought on this one?
No, I was enjoying listening to you and Dave because he obviously suffers more
Yeah, he does.
of it than anyone.
Why don't you just go from Zidane to Ancelotti like a good team? That would be smart.
you mean
Yeah, but that's not – see, and that's the problem. United's not a team that needs someone like Ancelotti or Zidane, I think.
I don't know what they need, first of all.
Well, that's
Phil's about to tell you.
I don't know.
I don't know if I'm going to
Phil's
tell you or
about
not.
to tell you. Send this to the team.
I would say right now results should be the least of Man United's worries.
I agree.
Who the hell cares if you lose or tie? But right now their image is absolutely atrocious. And they need to, like Chelsea, for example, they're getting some results, but there's a chance they won't get results. But you watch their games and it's okay, at least they're trying.
Maresca has a way he wants them to play.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, they consistently, what you're going to see in general when you watch Chelsea. And they were bad for a while.
They were bad for a while, but little by little, you get players to buy into that system. You become one unit, and if everyone buys into it, now you start becoming a dangerous team, especially when you have players of quality. Yeah. United doesn't lack players of quality. I will say their signings over the last 5 years have probably been a little poor. They could have gotten...
That's kind.
started with Pogba, which I thought was a great signing. It just didn't.
One of my favorite players.
Just didn't work out, which was tragic. Everyone thought he was going to be a generational player. But I think to your point, Sean, like, you need someone on a team, and sometimes it's a player, sometimes it's a coach. If I look at Liverpool, before it was Klopp. Right now, obviously the coach is fantastic and he's doing a great job. Van Dijk is probably that voice.
Exactly.
Back in the day for Madrid, maybe it wasn't Ancelotti, but it was Ramos on the team.
Toni Kroos right now.
He's retired.
Well, I know, but I think like for the last couple of years, that he's just been that guy.
Someone, whether it's a loud voice, whether it's just someone everyone absolutely respects, you need that on the team. When Ronaldo was on United, people sometimes hate his ego, his antics, always yelling at his teammates, but having that guy that holds you accountable, especially when you're not scoring, you're missing chances, is actually massive. And I miss that on Madrid. I'm like,
I mean, Ronaldo did that when he first came back.
Yeah.
He was great that first year back with United.
And you need, whether it's a person on the field or a coach, you need someone to be that voice of respect. And Ten Hag wasn't that, and I don't think they have a player right now that is that either. And you can, I'm going to compare them to Barca last year. Barca last year to this year really didn't change players. Obviously, Yamal took a step, and it's massive having someone like him. But they're still the same team. Their attitude, how they run around the field, how they carry themselves, how they play as a unit is a complete 180. And that came from the coach.
Yeah, they bought into it.
Flick. He has that persona that like just demands the respect, and everyone wants to play as a unit and die for each other and the coach. So I think that's what really United's missing now. Who do they need? How can they get that? That's the $1 million question, because they failed for the last 4 years in getting that person.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like they need some. The process, I think, has to come first. Like the results should be less important than, hey, we need to develop like a consistent way that we can go out and repeat and play. Like Barca is a perfect example. You know, whether it works or not, like you know what you're going to get. They're committed to that. They've bought into it.
Yeah.
If they lose, so be it. I can live with that. But like, it's hard to live with the way United loses games.
Right.
And I think it speaks to like they don't have full buy-in from everyone, whether that's the coach's fault, on the players, or a mix. It's probably a mix. They need to get that with somebody. I don't know.
And once you establish that culture, I think once you establish that base and that culture that the team and the organization's buying into, then it's super easy, but it's easier to go out and find those high-class players that you bring in, and then they buy into that, versus bringing in 4 or 5 players and trying to every year from scratch create this new way of going about things.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be the highest class players available. I mean, that's what they did under Ferguson. They made a few splashes here and there. I mean, the transfer market was different back then. Yeah. But, they would develop their own guys. They would go buy some guys that were a little bit under the radar. Then they'd come to United and get a lot better. Well, you had Sir Alex Ferguson, and he had the culture that we just talked about. Obviously, it takes time to develop that. But, like, they can't – I don't think they're, like, a couple key transfers away from getting back to where they need to be. Like, I do think the squad needs a pretty big overhaul, and there's 4 or 5 guys that I'd like to keep, and everyone else can kind of go in my mind. But that'll obviously happen over time too. But they better get the next one right, or else it's going to be 4 or 5 more years of this.
Yeah. I think, we'll come back to this topic after the season. Let's see what happens. I think this is a conversation, from, how they bring players up from youth to how they go get people to the culture to the owners. I mean, this is a conversation to go on forever. I'm sure in, the room for Man U, they're talking about this every single day, like, well, what the heck do we do? So it's obviously a really difficult thing to figure out, but I thought that was a good conversation. And like I said, we'll come back to it into season, Dave, and let's talk about it again, see if anything has changed. But all you listeners, I hope it does for you. All you listeners out there, this is a little bit more of a relaxed conversation, right? We just kind of talked about some relevant topics. Let us know in the comments on our YouTube or email us at our official email, firesidefpl@gmail.com. Let us know if you like that because, debates are obviously fun and heated conversations. Arguments is what's going to get the clicks. We understand that. We've done those. But let us know if this is something that you like too. This kind of format where we just kind of talk in a relaxed tone and just have a open conversation.
And let us know your thoughts on what Man United could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of Man U fans out there. I think they're the most popular team in the world. So I know someone out there is listening who likes them. So comment, like the video, subscribe, please. That's all free, and we really appreciate it. It'll help us out a lot.
Do
it. Do it now. No, just kidding. But with that, let's hit the last topic here. Question, please. I can't do that. I gotta let him have his moment.
Never take it from him.
Don't ever. The question comes from Philip's wife, Megan, this week.
Let's see. We are looking at... Ooh.
What do we got? What do we got as a juicy topic?
Who is the player that exaggerates the most when they're hurt or dives the most?
Oh, my goodness.
This is in world football or just the Premier League? Did she specify?
She did not specify, but let's do world football.
Okay. All right. Anyone from South America, that's my answer. All of them. Doesn't matter who you are, every one of them.
You got to go with one.
I mean, you guys go and I'll think of one. I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have one.
I'll give two answers. One on my own team is I love him, but Bruno. I think
it might be a Portuguese thing.
The other one, well, this guy hasn't played in a while, but I don't know. Neymar gets a lot of hate for this.
That was a good one. Yeah, Neymar does. I mean, what did I say? South Americans. It's just a style of play.
He is.
I do think players like him, and I think about Ronaldo too, because he looks for the foul a lot, is they used to get hit so much.
Yeah.
You almost anticipate it, and then a lot of times you end up not getting kicked or pushed or hit, but you're already reacting to it, and it looks really bad. You gotta
stick to your guns.
Yeah. I will say that I've always appreciated Messi for not being the one to go down easy.
True.
He's a little rat for other reasons, but in terms
that
of
low center of gravity.
Yeah. He won't look for that PK or foul.
So did you say Ronaldo's your one?
No, because
I don't think he dives. He does complain a lot.
He dives. He dives a bit.
He's a tick dramatic.
He's a tick dramatic.
I just feel
he got hit a lot too, though, throughout his career.
He just cries a lot, is what I would say, rather than diving. That's just my opinion. But go ahead. Who's your guy? I have one, by the way. I figured it out. It's a good one.
This one's hard because everyone kind of looks for those fouls.
Yeah.
Someone who stands out to me, and it's unfortunate because he literally just broke his leg, but Carvajal is an expert at faking the foul, especially when he's protecting the ball in his defensive half or really going forward. So obviously being a Madrid fan, watching him a lot, he always stood out to me as a little bit ratty in that sense.
I like that, but I do think I'm going to take the cake on this one. Someone who still plays, not as good as he used to be, Luis Suarez. That guy was an absolute chump when he would dive.
I mean, he was a piece of shit.
I mean, Sean is a big MLS guy.
So. Yeah, true. I mean, the guy would dive and then he would bite someone. So, you can't have it both ways, my man.
That's fair.
I just remember watching him, and obviously I didn't like the team he played for, but he just annoyed me, man. He was such a little rat on the field. Because you knew, I mean, even when he got hit and it probably hurt, he was still faking it, I felt like. You just saw him on the ground, he'd look up and smile, I feel like. Oof.
Well, he's going to pop up and sprint over to the ref and be totally fine and just start yelling.
That's what I'm saying. That's mine, Luis Suarez. That's
he got so many Madrid players expelled or kicked out because of faking
and then he laughs.
And then he gets once the card comes out, he stands right back up. I hate him so much.
I knew Phil would like that one.
Yeah. You got my vote, sir.
Yeah.
You got my endorsement.
Yeah, this is no right or wrong answer here, but I knew whoever we picked was probably at least two of the three were going to end up being South American. It turns out they were. So
yeah, I don't know if there's a cultural thing or a reason for that, but I mean, what they speak in Portugal they speak like Portuguese Brazilian.
Yeah.
It's like pretty close to Brazilian.
True.
So.
Nothing against the talent level. The talent level's off the charts for a lot of these players. It's just the style they play is slightly ratty at times. It is what it is.
Slightly ratty.
I'm sorry.
Very ratty.
I'm also a U.S. men's national team fan, and they're not great. But, you know, when you play against all these teams, as Mexico especially, you get a lot of that, right? That diving and, you know, really embellishing stuff. So, I don't know. I don't want to hate on all South American players. I shouldn't do that, but it's just that's what I've noticed is
I
that
get a
style
lot of
play.
hate comments
They'll
from.
just wave their World Cup and their Copa America
Yeah, I
in
mean,
their face,
of,
and
of course, South
that'll
America
be the end of that.
South America is one of the best soccer
They
regions
should.
on earth, and it's not really that close, especially compared to like North America. But yeah, just the style of play sometimes with some of the players. So
I like
that's
it. Lucho Suarez.
All right.
Good question, Megan. Good job.
Yeah, great
Good
question,
job.
Megan.
Good job,
if you're
Megan.
listening, like the video. And great question, Megan.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's it. Like we said, if you're listening on YouTube, comment on the video. Let us know what your thoughts are. If you feedback, comments, whatever you got. Like the video, subscribe. That's free. Again, we really appreciate it. We
What
can
if we
you can
charge
also
people
charge people what?
for liking the video?
Every like is a cent. So we have 0 cents on the last video.
Nice.
Actually, we have 1 cent. So there
Did
you
you
go.
pay?
I'm not sure we can do that like legally.
No, we
Yeah,
can't.
no, I'm kidding.
No, we can't. And you can also reach out to us at our official email, firesidefpl@gmail.com. Listen to us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And we'll be back next week for another episode of our pod. And look out for our next FPL episode, which will be looking back at week 10, looking forward to week 11, I believe.
Yes, sir.
All right. So with that, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.